Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our live stream on RAG pain points and proposed solutions. My name is Neil Canungo. I am your host. I'm joined today with KX data scientist Ryan Sigler and our very first special guest, Wenqi Glantz. So Wenqi and Ryan, do you want to say hi to the audience today?
Everyone.
Hi, everyone.
It's really awesome to have you on, Wenqi. Really appreciate your time today. For those of you that don't know Wenqi, she is a absolute stellar author of different articles related to generative AI, architecture, LLM ops, LLM security. She has a great, let me advance my slides here. She has a great Medium page with several thousand followers that are following her great articles on RAG developments and building generative AI applications. Highly recommend that you follow Wenqi on Medium. It's a great way to learn, and she always gives great code examples and thorough explanations. So if you really want to be plugged into space and best practices, Wenqi is the person to follow. So thank you again, Wenqi, for joining us today. A quick introduction about who we are for those of you that are new to KDB AI. KDB AI is a vector database that specializes in temporal similarity searches and scalability. So we have a website at kdb.ai. Just give 60 seconds, just go over who we are, and then we'll jump into the session. But you go to our website at kdb.ai, you can sign up at the top right. You get a few options. There are our free KDBI server and KDBI cloud options. I highly recommend using the KDB AI cloud option because it's just easier to get set up. If you're going for scalability and you're really trying to take some test some production applications, then you can try a server where you can deploy on the cloud, you can deploy on prem, you can deploy elsewhere where you need to. But KDB AI cloud is easy to set up, easy to just kind of kick the tires and see how you like the platform. When you sign up, you'll get a sign up form. You fill out that sign up form, verify your email address, click the link to verify your email address. You'll then be given another email which shows you how to log into KDB AI cloud. When you are in KDB AI cloud, you'll be given your endpoints for your KDB AI environment, and you will also be given API keys that you can use to connect to your KDB AI environment. There is a new quick start guide to help you get started with using this vector database. If you do see it not running at the top of your screen, you can just email our support and they'll turn your instance back on. The nice thing about KDB AI Cloud is that there is no time boxing on it. There's no expiration date on it. You can continue to use it as long as you'd like. As long as you're actively using it, then we will keep your instance running. Wanted to let everyone know that these sessions are recorded and they will be on our YouTube channel about an hour after the session airs. We are also live streaming to YouTube. So if you have issues with the LinkedIn stream, go to KX Systems on YouTube and you can find our live stream there. And sometimes that's a little bit more stable stream, but that'll be on as a recording as well for you to refer to. And then the last thing I just wanted to talk about is our Slack community. So if you are building applications and working with vector databases, you have questions, whether you're working with KDB AI or just generally in the space, consider joining our Slack community and asking your questions there. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our feature session. And that is on these 12 RAG pain points and proposed solutions. So Wenqi, did you want to kick us off with a little bit of an introduction on, this topic and how you came up with what research you did going into this topic and how you expanded on it?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Neil. Really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Your first guest speaker, so it's amazing. RAG development has been the hot topic ever since really, last year, the whole year. So I started to closely follow Llama Index ever since last May. when I first discovered the framework, and I was pretty much closely following the development of the framework. It's just astounding to see how far it has come, and the treasure trove of tool set in its framework stack. So this came about from a paper, recent paper. I believe it's January or it's January 11th, right? So this year, the 7 failure points. So this paper was tweeted out by Jerry, CEO of Llama Index, and I looked into the paper. It was fascinating to see the whole list of compiled 7 failure points. I was looking for solutions to those failure points in the paper, but I couldn't find any. So the paper focuses on the details of these failure points. And then I thought to myself, Llama Index does offer a lot of the solutions, and why don't I, compile a list? And also I changed it to pain points instead of failure points, because we wanted to address these points before they become failures in our RAG system. So that's where the motivation came from. And so I extracted the 7 failure points becoming pain points, and then added additional 5 of them because I was, developing RAG pipelines and understanding some of the other pain points that's not listed on this original 7. So this 7 really focuses on the response quality of the response, from different stages. But then additional 5 pain points I added have also proposed solutions to those as well, which could become, very common kind of issues that we run into. Yeah, right here is this from 8 to 12. So from 1 to 7 was originally from the paper. And then the bottom is I addressed the proposed solutions corresponding to each of those points. So that's where the whole story came about, and I dived in and really explored the framework. And in some cases, I actually also, after I finished the draft, I reached out to Jerry and asked for his input, and he provided additional, solutions to some of those. So that was deeply appreciated. So here we are, compiled this list for the community, and by it's by no means exhaustive. There are, I'm sure, a lot other issues you may run into, but this gets us start to think about designing solid RAG pipelines and where to, where's the points we need to be concerned and to be careful, and what kind of solutions we have at hand to address those pain points. So, yeah, it's Go ahead.
Yeah, that's really awesome. We've had a lot of attendees, kind of, and audience members talk about different challenges they're having with RAG, and different asking for advice on what are some best practices, what are some ways that they can improve the RAG workflow. Just to kick things off, what are maybe like 1 or 2 the best methods that you would recommend in improving the RAG workflow?
Yeah, that is definitely, I would highly recommend Reranker is one of the first things that comes to my mind. Over and over, it has proven to be only can help with the overall accuracy of the retrieval. So absolutely add that. It's really just a simple, like a few lines. You define the Reranker and then add it to a node post processor. So that's the beauty of Llama Index. It's just extremely simple to implement certain, complex features. So that is definitely one thing you wanted to do. There's no harm. It can only help with the retrieval quality. The others is just to really dive into the advanced retrieval strategies. The Llama Index offers almost a dozen, if not more, like really so many. And through Llama Pack, which is a prepackaged module or template, that really it's a low-code solutions that you can basically, after downloading and installing it, if you use out-of-the-box solution, it's a one-liner to kick off the run function. That's it. If you wanted to customize, you can do so as well. So all those options there for you to, at your fingertip, and it's just a matter of you discover and use it. So that's where we are here to help, bring everybody to this loop and understand there's a massive kind of good tools in that framework.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for that, Wenqi. And I know one of the things that I've heard a lot about, especially as it relates to RAG, is there being some hallucinations in the generated responses from the large language model. And I was wondering, is there a way that we can help to eliminate those hallucinated responses by improving the data that we're putting into our vector database and then would be retrieved for the large language model?
Yeah, so for that, like a few things, right? The first is you wanted to make sure your data is solid, it's clean. What is clean? Because if your data, your source documents contain like conflicting information, for example, or bloated, or lots of typos and so on, so that is going to affect your query retrieval quality. So the first step I would recommend is definitely pay attention to your data, make sure your data is solid, is clean, and there are tools out there that can help with that. So, for example, unstructured.io, they provide a set of core, library, clean library called cleaning. I highly recommend you look into that. And the link is in the article. So really dive into that and try it out for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about unstructured IO. I haven't tried it myself yet, but can you tell me a little bit more? Tell us a little bit more about what you can do with unstructured IO. Maybe if we peel that onion one more layer.
Yeah, sure. So for that particular libraries, I mean, they offer a lot of other services, but that one is particularly pertaining to our data cleaning capability. So, for example, if you have special characters in your source document, you can use some of the functions to clean that up. And obviously, you wanted to also combine with some manual effort as well, because if the content has conflicting information, right, it's not something like a function can just resolve that. So you wanted to just go through your document and make sure that the quality of the document is sound. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. I've seen, I mean, with tokenization, also you have different ways of representing dates and date times, and that can be a challenge, right? So if you have like April 12th, 2024, kind of written with the word April versus if you have 4/12/2024, it's going to be hard for the LM to recognize that these are the same date, and that can be a challenge. I think that data ingestion piece is really key. So you talked a little bit about using unstructured IO, making sure you're not doing garbage, having garbage in, garbage out situation, and really cleaning and pre-processing that data. Anything else you want to add to that topic before we move on to some other topics?
Prompting is obviously important. So in the case of, we're talking about if the data does not even exist in your source document, and at times you still get response sounded, pretty confident kind of response from your LLM. So how to handle that is try to have prompts to tell the LLM to respond, I do not know if the context is not in the document. So it's obviously not 100% guarantee it's going to work, but those are the kind of things we can try to ensure better output by better crafting our prompts. So another a few of the suggestion is to make sure your instruction is clear and using like keywords, also using like the one shot, a few shots, kind of using examples. Iterative prompting is also recently have been talked about a lot. So definitely use that as well. Follow-up questions and so on. So those are all kind of strategies to try to get the best out of your source documents by better prompting.
Yeah, that's the prompting side of things I think is really important, and especially too going back to the data cleaning. I think a lot of people get really focused on all these different elements of the RAG pipeline, and they sort of gloss over the most important part up front, which is making sure your data is very clean before we put it into our vector database. And diving into that a little bit more, one of the big pieces of ingesting our data into a vector database is that chunking step where we take it and we chunk it up into smaller pieces so it's more digestible by the large language model. But there's really, it seems like there's many different methods to chunking, and I was wondering, do you have any insights on what is the best practices for chunking, and how can we approach this to try to make sure we get the best retrieval at the end of the day from our vector database?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So this is part of the hyperparameter tuning. Luckily, Llama Index also offers a tool out of the box for us to use. It's called a param tuner. So what that does is it tunes your chunk size and your similarity top K. So these two important parameters that really drives a lot of the retrieval quality that we can use this param tuner to tune them. How we do it is we define a set of possible chunk size we think might be fitting for our use case. So we define, let's say, 2 or 3 or whatever number you define, and then also the similarity top K. You also define a set of that. Runs through the param tuner. What param tuner under the hood is, it's going to run evaluation based on the matrix combination of your chunk size and your similarity top K. So let's say if you give 3 and 3 for both sets, and basically it will run for the matrix of that, and then it will output the results, the score for you based on the evaluation. So with that, you wanted to make sure you pick the only culprit there is you want to make sure you pick the right the selector. So if you are going to evaluate the retrieval phase of the pipeline, you wanted to make sure you pick the selector that's pertaining to the the evaluator that's pertaining to the retrieval phase. If it's on the generation side, then you wanted to pick that particular evaluator. So there are also, I think, about half dozen evaluators out of the box provided by the framework. Absolutely utilize that, and then basically runs through that, and the output with all the different scores for the different combination. You look at it, you totally know which combination would give you the best result. That combination's chunk size and the similarity top K would be your ideal choice for your particular use case. So
okay.
that definitely is one technique.
Okay, that's really helpful, and actually one of the things that I've been hearing from the community is interest in doing RAG pipelines for structured data as well. So do you have any thoughts on how you would ingest structured data into your RAG pipeline and into your vector database? And along that lines, is it typical to chunk up structured data like tables, or more provide it as an entire table?
Yeah, good point. So that touches on pain point number 9, the structured data Q&A. So with that, we obviously have text to SQL. So that one has been out, and we experimented, and we know that it's not perfect, really depending on your query and the number of tables and so on. So recently, really, I think about in the last month or so, 2 papers came out. One is called a chain of table, and the other called mixed self-consistency. So those 2 tables proposed really novel solutions to tackle the structured data Q&A. And Llama Index also quickly, they developed the packs, Llama packs for those 2 particular methodology. So now you have the freedom of utilizing those 2. One is chain of table, the other is mixed self-consistency in your RAG pipeline to handle the structured data Q&A. So highly recommend that. And for example, for the chain of table, they provide a list of, I think, half dozen out of the box the table operations, so that you can really, lead you kind of step by step to get the results you want. And it is especially good at handling for columns if you have multiple values in your column. For example, like temperature, if it's Celsius and Fahrenheit in the same column, it is extremely good in extracting those type of data that normal text to SQL or other methods will not be able to handle. So those are there in the packs for you, sitting there waiting for you to use and discover. So yeah.
Wow, okay. This is just like a wealth of knowledge. This is awesome. I want to plug my brain into your brain and download everything that you have in there.
It's not me. It's not me at all. It is Llama Index and the team. They do outstanding and amazing work. I just wanted to, help broadcast this, and it's just so amazing. Llama packs right now, since November, we have about 50 packs now. So all those advanced retrievals and so on, all there for you to use. So,
We have a couple questions coming in from the audience, so I think it's a good time
sure.
to take one. So Scott Cole just asked, have you ever considered how might this work with mixture of MOE, mixture of experts framework, which I think has been more popular lately since the mixtural language models have come out. But have you had any experience with that? And do you have any comment on that piece?
Yeah, Llama Index does offer lots of integration with open source LLMs. MOE is one of them. So absolutely explore that. And right now, I think probably 60 plus some integrations, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so explore that. I wrote an article a few months ago on the integration methods with open source models from Llama Index, both LLM and embedding models. At the time, I counted about 10 plus. 10 plus is only like the major category, but in certain categories, there's so many. I did not want to list one by one. But absolutely, yes, explore that. It definitely is there for you to use.
Awesome. And, I just want to double click on some of the great things you're saying about Llama Index. So we've had a great experience, playing with Llama Index as well. And you've talked about Llama packs, you've talked about various aspects of Llama Index. So just generally speaking, what are some of your favorite features, and maybe the things that people should explore more, maybe something that they're missing in Llama Index that they could use to exploit more to help their RAG pipelines?
Yeah, a lot. It's hard to pick a favorite. There's just so many of them. Off the top of my head, definitely Llama Pack Advanced Retrieval Strategy. That is the core of, in many ways, the main core of the framework. Because that is where it differentiates itself from other frameworks because of its data-centric, processing. It's called a data framework for LLM for a reason, right? This is data. We focus on data. We focus on the advanced retrieval, the accuracy of the retrieval quality, and so on. So the team has put tons of effort into that area. And the Llama Pass just came out this past Monday. Llama Cloud and all that. So it's expanding and it's so exciting. The other thing I wanted to mention is definitely evaluation. So that's one of my favorite topics in the framework, and I use that a lot. It's almost, I call it, in one of my articles, I call it the Swiss Army knife. It really is true. You add that to your tool set for your RAG development. You have to use it because without evaluation, you're basically programming in a black box. You don't know your result, how good it is or how bad it is. With evaluation, you can compare. You can have different, whether to evaluate different LLMs, embedding models, or retrieval strategies, and so on. So absolutely dive into that. And evaluation, went through a couple kind of enhancements, and started with Raga's framework. So borrowed that kind of idea, also enhanced the framework. The evaluation modules, like I think over a dozen of those evaluators, and a batch evaluator as well. And then a couple months ago, the RAG evaluator pack came out. So making it just so extremely simple to use. So absolutely look into those.
Great.
That's really interesting on the evaluator part. That's something I've been seeing a lot of lately as well. So maybe a little more on that. So there's, in these RAG pipelines, there's several different sort of sections, and you can evaluate each of these sections separately. So like your retrieval would be the first step, and then like you mentioned also your embedding models, evaluating those, and then all the way at the end, of course, is evaluating your large language models generated response. So Llama Index offers a way to evaluate each of these different steps separately, and then maybe all together as a whole as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They have evaluators that focuses on the retrieval phase. They do the MMR, the hit rate, and all that. And also evaluators that focuses on the generation portion, also really the end to end as well. So, for example, the embedding model, I did a experiment with, using the fine tuning and evaluated before and after the fine tuning. was able to discover the improvements was about 1% to 6%. So that kind of margin. So really good to know. And the evaluator helps us to see the work that we do, the fine-tuning strategy and so on that we use actually make a difference in our development. So that's the reason why it's important to master that and use that frequently and often in your pipelines. And yeah, so.
So I just wanted to take a pause there and let everyone know that you can ask your questions in the chat. We'll bring them up on screen. This is a great way to extract some knowledge on your own pain points and how you can approach these pain points. So please make use of the chat. And on that point, we had Dr. Han say that she's seen many of these pain points on your list. They've experienced as well. So that's validating to know that we're on point here with understanding where the challenges are and how we can address them. And I just also wanted to give Wenqi you a shout out. Andre said amazing articles on Medium. So thanks, Andre, for that. And just now, Navneet asked a question. So Navneet asked, when query rewrites generate long expanded queries on that topic, have you tried query expansion rewriting for really short e-commerce search queries for product searches? So that might be might be a specific question to a use case, but maybe we could talk generally about query expansion and rewriting.
Yeah, so query rewriting, or we call it a query transformation. There is a whole separate page in Llama Index documentation that talks about that, and methods introduced at least 4 or 5 different methods for the query transformation. So basically, that is we add a query understanding layer. So it's very important to understand the query correctly so that it can be interpreted correctly for the retrieval. Before we pass to the retrieval stage, we wanted to make sure that query is sound and solid. A few strategies like sub-question query engine. So that is one of the first query engines introduced by the framework. So those kind of query engines, they're extremely good at the compare and contrast type of question. If you wanted to ask a question about like 2 different financial reports, compare and contrast for different year or different quarters and so on. So those type of question comes through and goes through the query engine. Query engine would split up into multiple questions based on whether it's asked by year or so. So it's smart enough to be able to handle that through ARM. And then the results you get back will be much more accurate than you just pass straight that original query. Then router query engine is another one that it intelligently routes your query to whether it's summary kind of question or like an individual kind of query in the vector index. So those are all the kind of key query engine strategies that we should be aware and know how to use. Then also there's recent ones such as the hide the hypothetical document embedding. So what that does is it takes your query and it's a query rewriting technique in that it generates a hypothetical answer for you and then embeds that hypothetical answer and compares with the embedding in the vector DB and then retrieves the most fitting and so those are all the techniques there for you to use and absolutely explore them.
Yeah, the hide method is pretty interesting, where it's sort of trying to predict what an example answer generated might look like, and use that to help increase the accuracy of the response. So have you done any experimentation with hide itself, and how have you found it?
Yeah, hide. I looked at their they have detailed notebooks on that, so I see how it works. But I personally haven't used it in any of the projects or POCs yet. But it's absolutely fascinating to try. And so these are all, I believe, stemmed from papers that came about whether last year or early this year. So, right.
We just got another question from Suryansh. Sometimes few-shot prompting extends the prompt tokens, which hamper the RAG performance. LLM doesn't focus on the details in larger prompts. What would you suggest when tackling this problem?
Yeah, so that is a good question. Few shot prompting, right? It looks like if you have that issue with the LM not able to interpreting that well, then one thing is to look at the, tweak your prompting, whether it's you change that to one shot, perhaps. Or the other end of things is I would really focus on look at your retrieval strategy to see do you have the best in place, the one that fits your use case. Or like, looking at do you have the re-ranker in place? Add the re-ranker if you don't. And then, you can also look at for if it's really domain specific data, for example, like, whatever financial or medical and so on, consider fine tuning your embedding model. So all those are, strategies for you to look at it besides tweaking your prompts.
All right, thank you. I'll pull that down here. And, I think one thing that's interesting about this is with few-shot prompting and context windows, it's this discussion that's kind of come up since last week on Gemini 1.5 being released. 99.7% recall and a million token context window. Is it 1 million or 10 million? Actually, I think it's 1 million, but super long context window. So, what are your thoughts on the Gemini release and RAG, the future RAG? Do you see that Remini is a RAG killer, or do you still see uses of vector databases and RAGs?
And also
on
that too, the lost in the middle problem, right? It
we'll
seems to
get
have
to that.
solved that to
Yes.
some extent, but
Right, absolutely. I don't see it as a killer. I know a lot of discussions on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and all that, and I looked at some of them. Absolutely, two things that's not going to make it a killer. Why? Cost and latency. So cost with Gemini, the 1.5, with that kind of context window compared to RAG's cost, it's a fraction. So the RAG is definitely here to stay, in my opinion. And then the latency is another big issue. So RAG is instantaneously in many ways than Gemini with that kind of a long context window. So that's my take, whether, and also obviously the other part is for privacy and compliance reason. For certain domains, you just cannot put your data into LLM like that. So that's not an option. So for those cases, absolutely, RAG is still the way to go. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, my thoughts were, scalability, cost was a big one. Latency is interesting. I didn't think about the latency piece, but I think governance as well. Actually governance around, multi-tenancy, what users have access to which documents and files that they're getting generation on and retrieval on. I think it was interesting because Ryan mentioned the loss in the middle problem. And for those of you that are unaware, there was a paper that came out November of last year about really the longer a context is or prompt is in the context window, the worse that the retrieval of certain details will be around the middle of that prompt, around that context that you're giving. So there is a degradation there, I believe, due to the nature of the transformer architecture. But Google seems to have figured out a way around that problem with this 99.7% recall they're claiming. But haven't played around with it yet. I know it's like a hot topic lately is Gemini. But this space is just crazy. It's moving so fast, right? I feel like every 2 days something groundbreaking happens, makes you question everything and you have to say, wait a minute, is what I believe still accurate, or do I need to adjust my thinking? So it's really it's really exciting and challenging.
Yeah, with the lost in the middle, we absolutely, Llama Index has another great option, solution. Long a long context reorder. So look at that. That's in the blog. As code snippet is provided as well. Actually very simple to implement. You basically construct a long context reorder and feed it into the node post processor when you construct your query engine. So what that does, it basically after your context is retrieved, it will reorder it so that making sure it's not to avoid this kind of lost in the middle.
One of the
Awesome.
One of the things that you just mentioned about the new longer context window capabilities was a bit of the safety aspect of things, where certain types of data probably shouldn't be put into the context window in the first place, and a RAG pipeline might help solve for that. But in my opinion, one of the sort of things that have been lost out on when working with these new large language models and even within RAG is the ability to look back at the traditional chatbots where you can sort of build a dialogue flow how you want to build it. So you sort of can take a customer through a certain path in the dialogue. But I know that there's some new ways to sort of create a conversational path with a large language model. And one of those ways was building guardrails through NeMo, the NeMo, NVIDIA's NeMo package. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how that could help really create effective applications for chatting with customers at a production level.
Yes, absolutely. I actually, with regards to security, I started with Llama Guard exploration, which led me to NeMo guardrails. And after I discovered NeMo guardrails, I did the POC experiments on that, and I did actually wrote an article like 2 weeks ago. I highly recommend it. Why? Because I really look at it as the ultimate open source LLM security toolset. I did a comparison side by side between Llama Guard and NeMo guardrails, and the features the NeMo guardrails offers is a lot more broad in that it doesn't just do the input-output moderation. It also does dialogue moderation, meaning topical moderation. You stay on topic. So this is a common issue with the chatbots. A lot of after I published that particular blog post and I got lots of response, people saying they're so happy to see this. NeMo guardrail is not new, by the way. It was released last April. So I'm beating myself up, like, why didn't I know about this before, right? This is crazy. But now that I discovered it, I want to tell the world, basically, this is so awesome, such a great tool. Dialogue Rails, it's one thing, and also it can have this custom actions. You can, add custom actions to utilize its execution rails. Like in my case, I actually created a custom action to integrate with Llama Index advanced query engines, retrieval strategies. So I was able to seamlessly do Llama Index with NeMo guardrails together in one application, whether it's in the notebook or in the microservice. So I was extremely happy with that result. So what that does is, input-output moderation. That's for sure very similar to Llama Guard. I even did a comparison. And the topical moderation is very good feature. So basically, I was going through asking questions about the particular source document, and then I threw a question like, tell me who you predict is going to win the Super Bowl, and then it outputs the response. Let's stay on topic. That is cool, right? It's so awesome. And also they have this retrieval rails as well, which is they developed a pretty good and continuing to expand on that. So those are all great features to know. The main thing about it is it's programmatical, meaning we can program the rails to our liking, to our particular use case and our particular domain. A lot of configuration files, YAML files and Golang, which is a kind of a new language that I think they invented it to write the flow of your particular dialogue. So all of those are extremely interesting, and I totally invite you to explore. And on top of that, Llama Guard has a kind of hardware requirements. I had to run it on an A100. But with NeMo guardrails, T4 totally runs beautifully. You can run on CPUs. So absolutely, that's another huge game changer for us developers to be able to experiment it and play with it and add to our RAG pipelines. So.
Thanks. I think you mentioned a little bit about like LLM ops and LLM security. So kind of pivoting to that a little bit. Do you have any advice for how developers can combat things like prompt injection, or how to protect against exposing sensitive information?
Yes,
In
absolutely.
RAG response?
Yeah, that is key. We develop our RAG pipeline. We wanted to make sure that they can handle all those type of prompt injections and so on, right? So the two options with both Llama Guard and Nemo Guardrails, they offer the programmable configuration on your prompts for your input and output moderation. So you can totally revise or add additional prompts and so on. Out of the box, they both provide a set of kind of sample prompts. In the case of Llama Guard, they have like 6 categories, unsafe categories. And in the case of Nemo Guardrails, they also have the sample provides a list of those particular topics you wanted to avoid. So those are the areas that as developers you can tap into, and you can revise those prompts, or you can add additional prompts to tailor to your particular use case, sensitive data or violence or whatnot. So just it's a really configurable kind of interface for you to use and make it fit your particular requirement. So
awesome. So I think maybe we'll just do like 1 or 2 more questions, and if anyone in the audience has anything that they want to ask, now's the time. We'll probably wrap up here in the next few minutes. I wanted to kind of jump back to one of the general questions, maybe kind of entry-level questions on a RAG that I know a lot of people have questions with, and that is on PDFs. And I had a question here written on, do you have any advice on how to handle like complex PDFs, maybe PDFs with tables and images and things like that? Do you have any general advice on how to embed those?
Yes, a very good question. Llama Index just released the Llama Pass on the past Monday. It's as part of the Llama Cloud. So what Llama Pass does is just to handle complex PDF, to be able to extract the data from the tables in your PDFs or reports. Those data usually by even advanced retrieval strategy or naive retrieval will not be able to handle. So Llama Pass is definitely try it out, look into it, and use it for your complex PDF. And also they have also a Llama Pack that's specifically designed to handle that embedding, the PDF embedded tables. It's in the blog, and look into, I believe, did I have code snippets? I believe so. So just really look into that. And I experimented myself, and I was able to retrieve detailed data from a table in Apple's 10Q document. So I was amazed. Usually, before that, like a month and a month ago when I experimented, I in one of my blogs, I even said, forget about the table data, they cannot retrieve it. Now we can, like, we use that framework, we totally can. So look into that.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, the table aspect of that. And then, of course, in PDFs, you have tables, you have the text, and then you can also have images. So it starts to bring in this idea of multimodal RAG and bringing in all these different types of data, maybe being able to store them all within your vector store, and then completing the RAG pipeline with that. So does Llama Index have any solutions for handling like multiple types of data and multimodal in the RAG pipeline?
Absolutely. They have a ton of implementations. Look into that, the multimodal. If you just go to their documentation, search on that, you'll see like video, audio, with picture. I did even a while back POC on that as well. Was able to do like a backyard kind of app for my daughter, just to feed into with a web page with text and images, and ask questions by text, and the image just pulls up. So all that is beautiful to experiment.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time here today. I wanted to let everyone know in the audience again that Wenqi has an amazing blog on Medium, and you should consider following her I highly recommend following her and getting more of these great insights that she has. Ryan, did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or Wenqi, that you wanted to add before we totally wrap up?
I think I'm all set, but just really appreciate you coming and presenting with us, Wenqi. It was a great conversation, and looking forward to your upcoming articles as well.
Thank you. Really, it's an honor. I just wanted to add, on this journey of RAG, we're all exploring. So, I think the community is important. We learn from each other, and we share, through whatever channel, whether it's through social media, or in my case, I like to blog. And for those who are still kind of on the fence, kind of, still not sure whether you should jump into RAG, absolutely, I would highly encourage you to do so. Started with doing a few POCs, and I'll tell you, you'll be hooked, because it's just so fascinating. So absolutely, embrace it. It's coming. There's no avoiding it. So just to learn, and little by little, we're all becoming, good little experts. So.
I love that, Wenqi, and I totally agree. We are all learning, we're all exploring, and thank you so much for being a member of our community, the broader vector database and generative AI community, where you're contributing and sharing your knowledge with our audience today and your readers every day on your articles. Can't thank you enough for being a strong voice in the community, and hopefully others on this call are inspired to do the same, and reach out if they need help, and offer help when they have the help to offer. I think that's what makes community strong. So with that, I just wanted to let everyone know, just finally, that the session will be on YouTube in about an hour, so you can watch the recording. We'll come back through and add some timestamps in, so you can jump through to specific questions that we discussed during the session. With that, I just wanted to thank you once again, Wenqi, for joining us, and thank you to our audience for your time today. Have a good day, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.